Now we're going to move on to the location of the big noon kickoff this week. Nebraska at number 16 and undefeated Indiana. The Hoosiers are a 6.5-point favorite. The undefeated Hoosiers, in one of the questions on the Super Six, sponsored by DraftKings, is what will the outcome be this week? Which undefeated team will lose? Miami, Indiana, Texas, and they did it again. They did it again with none. No, none is not an option. You can't say none. That's a cop-out answer. So Super Six, sponsored by DraftKings. Which undefeated team will suffer its first defeat? Miami, short favorite at Louisville. Indiana, home favorite against Nebraska. Texas, short favorite at home against number 5 Georgia. Or if you want to be soft and say none, you can go say none. But we'll have our column later in the week. I kind of like the Huskers plus the points this week. And I know Colorado is a little bit different of an offensive team than Indiana, but Nebraska did an unbelievable job shutting down that Colorado offense. And I know Indiana's a little bit more dynamic. They can run the ball a little bit more, but 6.5 feels like a lot to lay here with the Hoosiers, Sammy. I think Nebraska's defense is pretty good. I know Raiola is probably going to go on the road and maybe make some freshman mistakes, but feels like a lot of points here to be laying.
You want me to answer the question first, or do you want me to answer the game first?
You can answer the question first.
The question, I'm going to answer Texas. I think Texas has the best chance to go down because they're playing Georgia, because it's not Nebraska or Louisville. I wish Louisville would show me something. It hasn't really happened this year. So I'm going to default to Texas, Georgia in terms of the question. As for Indiana, two things. Number one, I believe the first time ever Big Noon Kickoff will be in Bloomington, Indiana.
Correct.
Number two, the teams that Indiana has beaten so far: Florida International, Western Illinois, UCLA, Charlotte, Maryland, Northwestern. Meow. It has not exactly been a murderer's row of opposition. I still like their coach a lot. I love their quarterback. Their offense is so good. I was actually thinking about this because I'm not going to lay 6.5. This game opened 4 in Vegas, Bear. Opened 4, out to 6.5 already. We might get to 7. I was playing out Indiana's schedule, though. And there's a world where, okay, they win this game. Maybe they don't cover. But if they can beat Nebraska, then they get Washington at home. Then they go to Michigan State. They can win all 3 of those games. I know I'm putting things ahead of the cart here. But if they're 9-0 and welcome Michigan to town, and they win that game, is Curtis Rourke a Heisman candidate? I really wonder that, because if you look at his numbers and you compare him to the Cam Wards and the Milrose and the Becks of the world, he's right there in terms of efficiency, in terms of yards per game. He's got, I think, 14 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. I'm going to look that up and verify those numbers.
You're right.
He's done everything right for a team that could realistically be 10-0 going into Ohio State. And if he can put numbers up in that game, I don't think they're going to beat Ohio State. But if they lose by a touchdown and Indiana is 10-1 with a loss to Ohio State, is Curtis Rourke potentially going to New York? I wonder that out loud, and I ask my friends.
New York, maybe. If they don't beat Ohio State, he's not going to win.
Okay.
I'm excited to see him in the Big Ten championship game, so it should be a lot of fun to see Indiana at that point. I will say,
wow. So you got Indiana going to the shoe and winning.
No, I don't. Sammy mentioned it, guys.
Well, you just said Indiana's going to get to the Big Ten championship game.
The reason,
so clearly they're going to beat Ohio State.
The reason why Indiana is probably going to struggle in this game is they haven't played anyone close to Nebraska. We've seen this throughout the season where when a team steps up in competition, and Indiana is a young, not a young team per se because they have older players, but they haven't done this together, right? It's Signetti's 7th game. And
24 transfers, I believe it is.
They're off a bye. I get it. But Nebraska is a huge step up in competition. They might not be all together offensively, as Raiola is a rookie, true freshman, and there are some true freshman mistakes he makes, and the offense sometimes doesn't function quite like it needs to. But Nebraska's defense is real. It's a real defense. It's number one in SP Plus on defense. It's legitimate. And Indiana has not seen Nebraska yet. So, Will, I have nothing on this game as of yet, but I would certainly lean Nebraska or nothing, because I think it's really difficult to finally play sort of like your first quote unquote real team in week 7 after basically playing powder puffs for 6 weeks.
I like Nebraska too. Now it's 6.5. I mean, we're doing the show on a Wednesday. What's the point of betting 6.5 when you could get a 7? And I think we have seen some 7s start to pop up. They just don't last very long. That's sort of the buy price from people that are monitoring this stuff. But I think Nebraska's defensive line can put Indiana in 3rd and long. I think the Nebraska quarterback is better than anything Indiana's seen at quarterback. So quarterback, defensive line, to me, this is more like a field goal game. How does Indiana respond to, hey, you're not chasing anymore. You're the hunted, and can they handle that role? And Bear, I think you've been on Kev O'Neill, who's a friend of mine, listens to the show. He was on my podcast this summer, gave out Indiana 500-1 to make the playoffs. I didn't bet it again. I don't have these markets readily available. Boy, I'm filled with regret because that is live. I mean, if they are a 1-loss team, I guess they're in the mix. I don't know if they're going to get in, but to me, I'll cop out. I'll say Indiana wins the game by a field goal. I think Nebraska keeps this very close. I will end up probably betting Nebraska here plus the points.
Yeah, I will as well. I'm sure I'll take a little Nebraska money line as well, just in case they do go on the road and Matt Rule gets a monster win for his program as well. So a lot of ranked teams on the road as well as the ranked teams at home. So again, this has been a thing. You've got 7 ranked teams on the road against unranked teams this week, starting Friday when Oregon goes to Purdue. Miami is at Louisville, LSU is at Arkansas, Notre Dame at Georgia Tech, Texas A&M at Mississippi State, Kansas State at West Virginia, SMU at Stanford. So of those 7, I'm going to set an over-under at 2.5 as the number of ranked teams on the road at unranked teams that will lose outright. Who wants to go over? Who wants to go under?
So
I'll say, what you mean? You got pretty annoyed when the option of none. So I'll just say push. I'll say we get 2 wins and a tie. Yeah, two wins and a tie. I'll go over. But what I like, the one at least I'm the most interested in is Arkansas, because that coaching staff off of a bye, the emotional win for LSU, and that was just a horrible, unspeakable loss for Ole Miss. You cannot lose that football game. My goodness.
Bear Bets full episodes drop twice a week right here on the Bear Bets YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to stay ahead of the odds, and let's celebrate all of our wins together.